Hi, my name is Fassio and welcome to my YouTube channel. This is a video to support help in the making of the Annika sweater, to knit it together so I can walk you through all the difficult steps. Annika was first designed for an event in Milano, actually two events in Milano, and the theme was Northern Europe because my mom is Swedish and Heidi, the Fiordilana, the host of the event, is from Norway. So it was a lot of fun to share the theme, the Northern theme. I will also show you the other sweater, the one that we'll be knitting together, the white one, and it's the characteristic of the drop shoulder. We'll walk through all the steps, and I will show you also how I wear the sweater. And you can find the pattern in Italian and English on Ravelry and in Italian in my web shop. And now I want to show you also how I wear the white one, this one that is thicker because I use the 3 yarns together. So now I will show you how I wear it. And here is me wearing Annika, the first sweater that I presented at the workshop. And here see you the white color with its border and the drop shoulders. So we are going to start from the back and we'll knit the back part, and then we will work the shoulders and join together to make the front, and then join in the round to work the body with round needles. And here I'm wearing the white one, so it's a little bit larger because I held 3 threads together, 2 by Scotland by Fassio and 1 thread of steel, my mohair. And you see how it's wider and it's cozier. And here you can see how defined the drop shoulder line is. In white you can see it much better, and so we will see then how we will work it together. And I wanted to show you also how the pattern in front and back is more detailed with a similar color of mohair and thread together, and then the colors. So now step by step we will look through the pattern. Ready to cast on and start our project together. I will show you step by step those that might be the difficult parts in the written pattern that you will find on my Ravelry, and I will also give you some advices on and tricks on how to make it until the end of the finished garment. Okay, it's here you can see the line of the dropped shoulder. It is worked top down, but first it's worked in the open in the sense that we are going to work first on the back part with the increases to define this line, and then I will show you step by step. Here you can see this is my sample for the next step. So here, don't look at this right now, but here you can see the back part that we have casted on here, the stitches, and then we have worked the back part, and we are here going to do all the increases, and then after the increases for the shoulder we are going to work the back part. Here we have the lace part, not the lace part but the design pattern with knit and purl stitches, and I've used a merino with a mohair, and this is a Norwegian yarn that was the one we presented at the workshops. Now I'm going to knit it here with 3 threads for this video tutorial because I wanted a thicker version, and I made some modifications because I am going to use a bigger needle, so a 4.5 millimeters and not 4, and I'm going to knit the S size, while for the other one I knitted the M size. So I have 2 threads of this Scotland thread by Fassio and 1 of merino. So I've casted on the stitches, made the increases, and for the back part and the drop shoulder, and then I'm going to work a part with no increases. That's going to be the back, and then we are going to end up at the underarm. So I want to show you here also some effects of the pattern, the design, knit and purl design. Here I've used two contrasting colors because I have a light mohair with a darker merino, and you can see that you can see the pattern, the design, but it's not that so well defined. Instead, if you use similar colors, similar shades, you can see it much better. So you might consider this when you choose the colors in order to, if you want to have a very well seen design pattern. Here you can see I've used 4 stitch markers, one for the increases, the green one, and the pink light for the pattern. So I can distinguish the 4 stitch marker, and it's important to have different colors. We are going to make increases both on the front right side of my project and the wrong side, and we are going to make one left and then make one right. And then if you lose track of row count, you can use this garter stitch ribbing, that's our design on the drop shoulder, to see where you are at with your rows. In fact, if you look at all the garter stitch, the one that on the wrong side you're going to knit, you will see that you can count, and we will start with row 0, that's the beginning, and then when you look 2, see, you can count 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. I am at row 10, so you can easily find again track of your row count if you might lose you might be distracted by something, or maybe a family member might start talking to you and you forget to write it, or just click on the row counter. So see here how I use the green stitch markers for the increases. So, and then I have the 28 stitches for all sizes for the knit purl design that we have it in the back and then in the front, and they are similar. Okay, ready? Now we are going to see how we are going to make the increases. So I knitted to my marker, and now I have to make one to the left. What do? I pick up my thread between the 2 stitches, and as you can see, it goes from the right to the left. So it's a make one left. The important thing is to work this through the back loop, because we want to have a closed stitch, otherwise it will look like a yarn over. So now I'm going to knit to the next marker, that for me is the pink or light purple marker that defines my chart, my pattern, knit purl pattern design. So, and here it's important, then I will also explain to you how to read the charts, because here we have 2 different charts, one for knitting flat, as we're doing now with rows, and then another one when we will join in the round. So we have another chart, because we are going to knit always on the outside of the project, so all the wrong side rows have to be translated to the right side, but we will see that later on. Now I'm going to work through the design pattern to reach the other, so my 28 stitches, and to reach the other marker that indicates the end of the design pattern. So you can see here how it's well defined, because I have similar shades of mohair and merino. Now I'm going to knit to the other marker, and here I have to make one right. So I'm going to pick up the thread between the 2 stitches, and I'm going to put it on my left needle like this. So it's going to go from the left toward the right. This is my make one right, and I'm going to knit it through the loop to make it closed. So see here how well defined is the increase line. Now I'm going to slip the marker and knit to the end of my row. When I turn around my work, I am on the wrong side, so I'm going to remember to work the 3 purl stitches and then the 2 knit stitches for the garter stitch element, and then I will also explain why we have 2 stitches in stockinette and then here 3 stitches in stockinette, but we will see that later when we are going to pick up the stitches. So here now I'm going to work as by pattern to my stitch marker. So here are the 2 knit stitches, purl and purl. I slip the stitch, and here the important thing is that my make ones are going to be purl stitches, and they have to go in the direction that the first one is a make one right purl. So I'm going to put the thread on my needle in order that like this, so I'm going to see it from my side going from the left to the right, but the important thing is because the back thread has to go exactly as the other stitches in the front. So now I have to purl this stitch close, so my stitch marker might get in the way, so I can just do like this and then purl my stitch. Now we are going to work all purl stitches to the marker. And if we turn around the work, as I was saying before, the important thing is to have all these little threads that go all in the same direction so that we have a really clean and neat line of increases. That's why when we are on the wrong side, we make the make one right purl stitch first. And on the other side, we're going to make a make one left by purling it. So if we can go through all the stitches in order so we can go to the other side and see together the make one left by purling the stitch. And here I'm on the wrong side of my pattern, so I'm going to follow the row for the design element and work the knit and purl stitches to the marker. I'm going really quick here because I made different versions of the sweater, so I remember it, and so I just walk through the stitches by looking at the how it works on the wrong side, and I remember where to make knit and purl stitches. So here I am to my marker. I'm going to slip it. I have to purl to my marker. So I'm going to make then my make one left purl stitch. So here we are, and we are going to pick up the thread that we have between the 2 stitches and put it on my left needle by paying attention to the direction, and it has to go from the right toward the left, and we have to work the stitch close, so we are going to go through the back and purl the stitch like this. Then we slip the marker and work 2 purl stitches, 2 knit stitches, and then the last 3 stitches. So, and here if we turn around our project, we see how we have casted on all our stitches and how the work should look like, with the increases on the side for my drop shoulder, and I'm going to work up to the point that is indicated for the size that you are knitting, and then we have between the central 2 stitches the knit and purl design. Here I want to show you something from the project that is ready for the next step, and see here how all the line is well defined up to the point of the shoulder, and then we are going to work as in pattern but with no increases up to the point of the underarm. And I advise to use a stitch marker to underline the point when the increases finish, because it's going to help us when we are going to pick up stitches. So and then we are going to work the shoulder part, and then we are going to go to the front. Okay, here I wanted to explain how to read charts because we're first going to work rows, so flat, and then after joining after the underarm, we're going to knit in the round. So I have two different charts, even if the design is the same one, and I want to show you how important it is to understand the design element and to look at the legend where we have the indication of how the dots and the blank squares, what do they mean. So here we are going to read the chart from the bottom to the top and from the right to the left. But then from the left to the right, when we are going to work on the wrong side. We are going, so first from the right to the left, then from the left to the right. The important thing is to understand that when we are knitting row 1, we are going to see the dots and they mean purl stitches. So purl, 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 and then all knit stitches and then purl, purl, purl. When we turn around, since we want to have the stockinette stitch, we are going to purl all stitches. So, and we can check it also with the legend for the chart. My white squares mean purl stitches when I'm on the wrong side. And this is very important. When we are up here where we have this X design element and we are going to work from right to left, we are going to knit, knit, purl, purl. But then when we are going to work on the wrong side, we have to purl, purl, and then when we see the dots, we are going to knit so we can have the design element. When we work in the round, we are always on the outside of our project. So, and we look at check with the legend also, and so we can see that even if the design element is the same, but what we are going to read is only on the right side. So for me, here is purl, 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 because I'm going to read it from the right to the left. And then we can see that we have the round 2 indicated on, and see here we have all the numbers on the right side, and here we have it on the right, and then on the wrong side it is on the left side. So here we are going to always work in the round, so purl, purl, and then so when we are on round 2, we are going to knit all stitches because we are on the outside. And this is important to remember that we are flat knit working here, and so we have to check for the wrong side and look at the number on the left side of the chart. And here we are going to do only rounds. Okay, now we are ready to pick up stitches on the shoulder. We have worked through the back part with the increases to have our drop shoulder, and then we have knitted the back part and we have put on hold our stitches. Here we are going to pick up first on the left shoulder, and I will show you why we had the 3 knit stitches, because I want to have a very defined pickup line. So I have to leave 1 stitch inside, and so now I can see that I have 2 stitches, stockinette stitches here. Then I have the garter, 2 garter stitches that create my line, and then the 2 stockinette stitches that I have used the 3rd one for the picking up. So now everything is in line and perfect, and that's why we had the 3 stitches before. How do I pick up stitches? I hold my thread like that, and with the point of my needle I go into the stitch and pull out the thread, but be paying attention of picking up all the threads. In my case I have 3 threads, so I have to be very careful. See here that I have to pick it up again here. So I go through all the stitches until I have picked up the stitches that are indicated for my size, and I reach my stitch marker that is pointing the end of the shoulder line. And so Look how nice it looks because I've left the stitch inside. And then we are going to work on the left and then on the right. I want to show you what happens next because here we have our shoulder with our finished sweater. We have all picked up the stitches here, and we're going to work on the shoulder toward the front, where we are going then to make some increases. But first we are going to shape the shoulder line with some decreases because we want a really nice line, and I will show you that if we don't make those decreases as written in pattern, here I have a slanted shoulder line. If I didn't do this, if I don't do the decreases, I would have a more rectangular shoulder point. Let's say like the 80s shoulder, but we want a more dropped one, so we need those decreases in order to have this nice line that will be very nice when we are going to wear it. So after the decreases, we make the increases for our shoulder line, and then we are going to work on the other side of the shoulder, and then we are going to join in the front. Now that we have worked the back part, and we have our right shoulder, that's the last side that we're going to work, and the first one was the left, with see here the decreases that we were talking about, and then we made the increases. And to join in the front, we are going to cast on some stitches, and they might differ from size to size, so check the pattern that you can find on Ravelry, and in Italian and in English, and soon also in French. So what happens? I'm going to start to work from the right side, the right shoulder. Oh, look, now my mohair has just finished, so I'm going to show you how I join the new ball of mohair by starting and inserting it. And I'll work for a couple of stitches with the two threads of mohair together, because when they are so thin, and you won't see that there one more thread of mohair for some stitches. So what happens now? I'm going to take my new ball of yarn and leave a little tail down, and I'm going just to start working with it. I have to look for the pattern section, and in my case that I'm knitting the S size, I'm going to cast on 22 stitches. But I have to remember, before coming to the end, I have to put my pattern design marker 3 stitches before the end. So here I'm going to work through pattern and knit in order, be careful to pick up all the threads when you work with more than one thread. And it is important that we work our pattern, knit and purl pattern, on 28 stitches as for the back, because we repeat the design element twice. So now I'm working, and I have to remember about the marker. And what happens if I forget while working, since I might be talking or I might be distracted? So it couldn't happen that I would just work through the end all my knit stitches and I forget to put the marker. Now, so I take the marker and I just undo my 3 stitches so I can place it well on the needle. So, and this is important. I'm going to use the back loop cast on. That's the one I suggest also for the underarm. And what happens when I knit to the end, I have to turn my project around, so I'm going to be on the wrong side, and I'm going to work through the last stitch, a knit stitch. And here I suggest to have a nice tension, and because otherwise it might be too loose. You can put the stitch in different ways, but the one I suggest is always through the back loop. So Be careful about tensions because you have to pull well, otherwise you have a loose stitch there. And after you have knitted it, you put on the stitch through the back loop, and then you work the second stitch and you position it again on the needles. Now I should be casting on 22 stitches for my nice wide and open neckline, but here I'm just going to cast on 5 stitches because I want to show you what happens. Let's fake it, and I have 22 stitches here, and then I'm going to pull on my needles the left part, my left shoulder, and the increases for the neckline. I will just leave the tail down, and I'm going to work through the first stitch. And here I have to put my other pattern marker for the knit purl design, and I'm going to knit the 3 stitches and then position my marker. So I've casted on 22, and then I have 3 stitches and 3 stitches, so that will make the 28 stitches for my pattern. After I finished to work on the front panel, I have to make sure, in order to make it easier to work in the round, now that we are going to join in the underarm and casting on the stitch, that our pattern is at the same row of my back pattern, only because this will make it easier when I will cast on the stitches in the underarm and join in the round. I have to follow the same round for the pattern, the chart, so it's going to be easier. At this point, when I finish the front, I have worked one wrong side, and now I have to start to work on the right side of my front. When I work the first row, I did it already, so I can show you what to do exactly on the first underarm. I have used, to put on hold my back panel, the caps in order to have my stitches on my cable. I take it off, and I take the point that I'm not going to use to work my stitches from the cable I have on the front. I just take it off, and here I will put on the back part my needle, my point, in order to work, and on the end of the other one I'll just put back on the end caps, so that my stitches will not fall off from the front. Of course, when I will be at the end of this row round with the casting on stitches for the underarm, I will just use one cable with both points on the same cable. So now that I've worked the first working row, in order to join in the underarm, I have to cast on stitches. So I turn around my project, and in the last stitch, as we did for the front to join the neckline, I'm going to knit 1 stitch and create the first stitch for my underarm, and I will put it on through the back loop. I have to cast on 4 stitches here, and I work them all by having a nice gauge, even gauge, and by putting them through the back loop. So I've worked my 4 stitches for the cast on, and now I can turn back to the right side my project, because I have to work and join with the back panel of my sweater. Now here, see that I have a stitch marker after the 2 knit stitches, and these knit stitches are from my shoulder increases first, but now I need to have my marker next to the 2 garter stitches. So if I have and you will find this in the pattern, and if you have a removable stitch marker, you can just pull it off and put it back on the needles at the point where you need it, next to the 2 garter stitches. If the needle is in the way, you can just pull it through to the cable, so it's going to be easier. Now we have to work on the back, and we are going to arrive to the other underarm where we have to cast on the other stitches. The only thing, remember that you have to work through the entire back and to make the pattern between the two markers. Okay, ready? Now I'm at the end of my back, so I have my last stitches, and I have to move my marker because I need it next to my 2 garter stitches. So I just knit 2 stitches after having removed my marker, and I place the marker before the 2 garter stitch. At this point I knit to the end of my row, and at this point I can see that I will create the details on the body under the underarm between the markers. Now here, when I'm at the end of my back, I have to join with the front, and I have a cap there where I put it before, and I need to put a beginning of the round marker between my stitches, because now I'm going to start working in the round. And look at the chart B that indicates all the stitches for the pattern in the round, because it's important to keep working on this pattern with knit and purl stitches by following in the round. So now, before joining in the round, I have to look for a stitch marker that it's different from all other stitch markers. And when I don't have one, I usually put 2 stitch markers together by hanging one in the other one, and I will place it between my 4 stitches in the underarm. Now I have to look at the cable that I don't use anymore, because it was the one I had on the back where I have the other end cap, and then I just need to take the point off, and I will place it on the cable that I have with all my stitches by taking off the cap that I have there and putting back the point. So now I have only one cable and all my stitches will be on it, and it's easy to be working in the round. So now I place my point, and I'm ready to keep working and casting on the stitches in the underarm and start working in the round. I'll just check that everything is in place and perfect, and I then turn my work around because I will cast on the stitches on the wrong side. I knit one and I place it through the back loop as I did before, because so I have a more defined line where I will be picking up stitches for the sleeve. So now we have to put the stitch marker. But what happens if I forget to place it and I cast on all 4 stitches because maybe I'm talking? Then if I have these removable stitch markers that I can open, I can just slip my stitches on the cable and then place the stitch marker between the 4 stitches, and this one will indicate the beginning of my round. Just count 2 stitches and then I place it over there. So it's easy, and that's why I love these removable markers, because it's easy to move them if you have placed them in the wrong place, or if you have forgotten to place one somewhere. You just open and you don't have to, unravel your work and knit over again. So now we put the stitches back on my needle, and I just start working in the round by following the instructions, and I will just work on the body, and between the markers in the underarm I will have this nice ribbing pattern with garter stitch and knit stitches that will decorate the side of the body of my sweater. And I have to follow chart B for the pattern. Okay, before the end of the body section, I wanted to talk to you about body proportions and different wearabilities that you can obtain, because every yarn is different, and even every gauge and fiber. So even if you are following exactly the indications, something might be a little bit different, as in the white one I've showed you before. I'm using 2 threads of Scotland and 1 thread of steel. So the wearability is a little bit different. It's like a little bit wider, and it's a little bit more like a poncho, no? So I have to try it on and see if it's the length is what I like, to wear. And in fact, I've decided after trying it on that I wanted it a little bit shorter because it's wider, so it follows my body proportions. So don't be afraid to make customizations because, as I've said before, every fiber is different, every gauge, and maybe just make it by making it longer or shorter, you will have that perfect fit that you will love wearing. And no, I'll show you at the end how it wears. Now, before the final border, I want to show you here on the body section we have this ribbing with the garter stitch and knit stitches, and it is nice for the final border that they keep the rhythm of this border for the two underarms. So when you have to work the final border, you have to check to have a number of repeat of stitches that it's 4 plus 2, because so between the M markers you need this 4 repeats plus 2 stitches. This is why, because we have 2 garter stitches and we have it finishes with 2 garter stitches and starts with 2 garter stitches. So we need 4 repeats, but then if we have 4 repeats of the ribbing, it will end with garter stitch next to garter stitch. So that is why we need to check the number of stitches, especially if we made the customizations, in order to have 4 plus 2. So we have 2 knit stitches next to the 2 garter stitches. What happens if I don't have the 4 repeats plus 2 in this section between the 2 M markers? I'm going to make 2 decreases. I can knit an extra round and just before the final border make the 2 decreases in order to obtain at the end my repeat, the 4 plus 2 stitches, in order to have a nice fine border at the end. Okay, ready? Now we have finished the final border, and see, because we had the 4 plus 2 stitches, we have this really nice defined border with no extra stitches next to each other, but this 2 by 2 ribbing all around the body. Then I have made knit stitches to bind off because I wanted to have this little decorative border, and my knit stitches, like, they lie down in this really nice way. When we work in the round, we are not working real rounds, so when we finish, it's like little spirals. So when we finish, we always have this little little step that we have to make it nice and like polished in order to have a really polished finished. So what do? I thread my needle, and then I go through the first stitch I banded off like this, and I pull the thread. It's like creating an extra bind off stitch that will make my final finish very nice and clean. I go through the 2 stitches, the last 2 threads of the last stitch I banded off, and I just pull, so I make it like an extra stitch, and see how nice and clean it will look. Now I can just weave in my end, and then I'm ready to pick up stitches for the sleeves. Okay, now we are ready for our sleeves. We need a stitch marker for the beginning of the round that we are going to place in the underarm, and I'm going to work with shorter needles in centimeters. That will be 40 centimeters with short points in order to comfortably work in the round. We are going to start at the center of our underarm. So we just check our work, that is, our shoulder line, and we are going to put it in the back like this and check where my underarm is. I'm going to start at the center, and here I'm going to start to pick up stitches. It's very important to cast on stitches for when we have casted on stitches. You pick up one stitch every cast on stitch, and I take them not at the front at the top, because otherwise it's not going to be clean, but I just leave a little border inside so they will be very defined. Now that I have all my side and I have to work on picking up stitches on rows, what do I do? In order to have a very nice and flat pick-up edge, as for also the borders of a cardigan, I pick up 2 stitches every 3 rows. So first I'll check where I have the smallest stitch so I can pick up and not have a little hole there. And then I pick up 2 stitches, and then I will skip 1 row, and then 1, 2. So I pick up stitches in 2 rows, and I skip the 3rd one. As you can see, I just leave the 3rd stitch of the 3 knit stitches in the inside, always because I want to have a really nice border. If I pick it here, see that my thread pulls and I will make a hole. So I'll just go 2 stitches in 2 rows and skip the 3rd one, like this. So it's going to be very clean and nice, and I have the 2 like the column of 2 knit stitches, very defined, very nice. I'm going to put my marker at the center of the underarm, and in the pattern we have decreases that will bring us to the final border, so I have to remember to make the decreases before the final border that's a little higher, but like the one in the bottom. Now we are ready to pick up stitches for the final border on the neckline, and then our sweater will be finished. Okay, fantastic. Now we have to pick up stitches. We start in the center of the back, and where we have cast on stitches, so in the back and then in the front I will show you, we pick up 1 stitch every stitch. We are going to knit the border with the multiple of 4 repeats, because we have the 2 knit stitches and the 2 garter stitches. So in the center of the back we start to pick up the stitches, and then you will put the marker here. So this is all the stitches in the cast on, and it's 1 stitch every stitch, and the same will happen in the front where we have casted on our stitches. I will pick up 1 stitch every cast on stitch. I always like to leave this little border inside, because if we pick up stitches just on the points there, we can have threads that make then a hole. By doing this we have a really neat cast on and polished work. So it's nice to leave this little border in order to have a clean. So I've picked up 1 stitch every stitch here, and then I'm going to start and do the same. So in the front, remember when we have the front cast on stitches, but on the sides where we have the slanted lines and we have the work rows, we have to pick up, as we did for the armholes, 2 stitches every 3 rows. What does this mean? We have to pick up 2 stitches, and I always like to leave a little border also here, like 1 stitch inside, so it's a very clean and neat when we are on the outside. So we pick up 1 stitch and a 2nd stitch in the 2nd row, and then we skip the 3rd one, and we go and pick up 1 in the following one, the 2nd one, and we skip the 3rd one. This is what it means to pick up 2 stitches every 3 rows. And so we do that all the way around until we come back to the center back, where we are going to place a stitch marker. I always like to use these ones, as I've told you before, because you can open them and at any time you can replace it. If you lose it, you can just check where your tail is and open your stitch marker to put it back in place on your cable. So it's very comfortable to use these ones. We are going to work as for the sleeve final border, four stitches repeats, so we have 2 knit stitches and 2 garter stitches, and it's going to be very nice. What happens if I want to make a lace wide neckline? I can transform after a couple of repeats of my border the column of 2 knit stitches with a decrease in 1 knit stitch and 2 garter stitches, so it will be less wide. So here we are at the end of our sweater, and I hope you liked Annika, and that this video support video to the pattern instructions that you can find on Ravelry in Italian and English and French has here in the bottom you can find all the informations and the links. And I hope that this video has helped you out in what might be the difficulties in the pattern instruction. There are other 2 pattern Annikas that are on the way, because it's a pattern that I really love, so I'm going to make more color versions and you will soon see them. If you have any questions, you can write down in the comments and I will answer you, and you can also find me on Instagram as Emma Fassio. Happy knitting!